Well, I thank the chairman. My amendment that I have at the desk fully defunds the Department of Energy's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, the EERE. Now, I offer this amendment because we cannot continue, in my view, to fund the destruction of United States energy to satisfy the climate agenda that I've been describing over the last 15 minutes. Now, I do want to say, with all due respect, I believe that the Appropriations Committee, they did a good job in trying to pare this back. They limited the funding of this particular office, knowing that it deserves to be reduced. I just want to take it a step further. I think when our country is $35 trillion in debt, I think when our country is bleeding $2 trillion a year, I think that our country needs to pinch every penny we can, and I think you should pinch those pennies in offices that are designed, frankly, to undermine the very productivity and economic growth we need to drive ourselves out of the debt that this incompetent Congress and incompetent government created for the American people. The FY 2024 minibus gave this, that's last year's spending bill, gave this office $3.5 billion. So again, I want to applaud the Appropriations Committee for reducing that down to, I think, about $2 billion, 1.96. I would like to strike it to zero. That's what this amendment would do. The office's mission is to, quote, equitably, that's already a big strike, okay? Let's just start with equitably. This office's mission is to equitably transition America to net zero greenhouse gas emissions economy-wide by no later than 2050. Wind and solar, it funds wind and solar, which are actively destroying the power grid, as I described a minute ago, undermining the ability to have reliable energy, despite the Department of Energy claiming they lead to, quote, enhanced reliability. They don't. EVs, it funds zero-emissions vehicles, which I already described, are significantly beneficial to the wealthy. Today, only the wealthy can afford. 50% of them are saying they don't even want them. They are piling up on dealerships' lots. We have government now saying that you got to have 2/3 of the fleet being available by 2032. We shouldn't be funding an office to advance the thing that is already being advanced by a Congress that is messing up the ability of the American people to live. Third, it's woke. It actively promotes divisive concepts like, quote, energy equity and environmental justice, whatever the hell that means, which allocates taxpayer dollars based on immutable characteristics. This is, again, your glorious government at work, picking winners and losers, dividing us up by race, making up all kinds of policies in the name of wokeism while destroying our economy in the name of pursuing their climate activist agenda. With that, I will reserve.
Gentleman reserves. For what purposes, gentleman from Tennessee?
Mr. Chairman, I claim time in opposition.
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share some of my colleagues' concerned about excess spending at EERE. EERE received over $16 billion from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, of which there are billions in unobligated balances remaining. These reasons are exactly why, and my colleague from Texas alluded to this in his amendment, reduced EERE spending by $1.5 billion below fiscal year 2024. In fact, the House bill has reduced funding for EERE below the fiscal 2016 level. However, respectfully, my colleague's amendment goes too far, in my view, by eliminating funding for EERE. I'm actually a supporter of EERE, and the work that they do advances research and development on renewable technologies, advanced manufacturing, and battery improvement. That includes essential work on critical minerals that will help lay the groundwork for technologies that will reduce our reliance on foreign supplies. I think that's an issue we all can support. I support strategic reductions to EERE, but I'm not in favor of eliminating the account and walking away from its ongoing work. For those reasons, I must oppose my colleague's amendment and urge my colleagues to do the same, and I reserve.
From Tennessee reserves. Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Well, I respect the gentleman from Tennessee, and I appreciate the cuts as I already stipulated. I'm glad to see it reduced to $1.5 billion. I still say that's $2 billion too many. I don't even know where we're getting the $2 billion. I won't engage the gentleman on that, but no one on this floor, nobody can tell me where we're getting the $2 billion. You know what we're really doing? We're borrowing money from China to turn around, and we actually, believe it or not, in the appropriations bill this last go-around, we actually subsidize China. So we borrow from China, we pay interest, and then we turn around and we subsidize China. That's what the geniuses of the congressional body do for the American people while we rack up $35 trillion of debt. So let's move off of the fanciful, radical climate agenda that's destroying American entrepreneurial capability and abilities and driving down prosperity, and let's move straight on to debt. What in the hell are we going to cut if you can't cut this? Who on this floor is going to stand up and talk about Social Security and Medicare and ages and everything else? No, everyone's going to preen and posture about it. But meanwhile, we're destroying the greatest country in the history of the world by putting a tax on the American people in the form of what? Inflation. We're killing our own country while we spend money. $2 billion, $2 billion more dollars is going to go to have this office advancing more of the very radical agenda, destroying our ability to produce wealth and drive ourselves out of the debt. We're going to borrow $2 billion more so that we can advance energy equity and environmental justice and try to drive towards, quote, zero emissions vehicles that I've already described, only the wealthy are driving, that cost $17,000 more than the internal combustion engine. And we're going to drive up the price of used internal combustion engines so that a plumber in 2030 is going to collapse. That's what's going to happen. I reserve.
Gentleman from Texas reserves. Gentleman from Tennessee is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield to the gentlelady from Ohio, Ms. Kaptur, as much time as she may consume.
Gentlewoman from Ohio is recognized.
I thank the gentleman for yielding and rise in strong opposition to this amendment. The bill already cuts 43% in this account for energy efficiency and renewable energy. And I don't really understand with the gentleman from Texas, a lot of the things that he throws out there. But if you look at where agriculture is going in my part of the country, where it's going is John Deere's on track to make a 100% ethanol-powered tractor. Now, if I had said that to you 25 years ago, you'd go, well, I can't think about that. You know, that can't happen. Guess what? It's happening. And for the 8 counties I represent, the rural parts of those counties, half of beans, soybeans, and corn go into making that fuel. We're very proud of it. We're very proud of it, and it's renewable energy. In terms of solar, so why do you need this? Well, when solar first got started in my area by individual entrepreneurs, okay, inventors, the federal government, Department of Energy, didn't even know about what they were doing. They took their technology to the Department of Energy. Now they laud what the people were doing. But guess what their problem was? Getting financing, getting help to bring their technology forward because they weren't a big company and they didn't have any of those angel investors like Texas has. So out where I live, the people have made it forward by their own creativity and hard work. And we flew the first biofueled F-16 out of our National Guard base in Ohio. Didn't come out of Texas, didn't come out of Tucson. It came out of our area because of the creativity of our people. So where this department comes in and where this program comes in is for the Americans that are out there today who are inventing something new and need a little bit of help in order to get it across the finish line. And I want to help them. And I'm looking toward advances in biofuels, in hydrogen fuel cells. Yes, in solar. I'm not against solar. Wind energy, you have more of that. We have quite a bit in Ohio, too, now. Geothermal, thermal heat recovery, advanced manufacturing efficiencies that we're seeing every day. I can't get into all that in the brief time I have. Weatherization and building materials. It is a revolution, and it's exciting to be a part of America's future. Our dominance in the solar industry, if we can get there, could result in up to a $1.3 trillion market and 500,000 jobs. We're up to about 200,000 jobs right now in that field, and we need more people to specialize in the electricity of solar. So we can choose to give up American leadership in these technologies by cutting further innovations, or we can embrace the future of the global energy economy, and that's what I want to do. And therefore, I urge my colleagues to vote no against this harmful amendment, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from Tennessee reserves. Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
I thank the chair. I'll just add this. Every time I get my gas can out and I have to use the stupid spout that spills all over the place because it's been regulated by the federal government, we messed up an actual gas can, and then I have to stick the gas in with ethanol into it that goes into the engine that then clogs up the freaking fuel pump that I then have to replace because of all that garbage. I would just tell you that none of this stuff is there if it's not subsidized. That's the truth. The American people are tired of the federal government subsidizing less than optimal energy, and that's what we're doing. And without those subsidies, they die. I yield.
Gentleman from Texas yields. Gentleman from Tennessee is recognized.
I yield back.